Right, that's us ready now to start. So the way in which we're going to do this here tonight is that it's not just about me bombing and blowing about being in jail or talking about running about the streets during a hunger strike, but to put things in context and talking about the hunger strike, I just have to put a wee bit of my own personal point in this, and it's not a case of looking around this room here, there's see people here with family members, to see young women who were in jail at that particular time. So some of you will know a lot more about these particular events and know some of the lads who died in hunger strike better than I would claim to have known or would know. So just bear with us when, as I said earlier, that when we finish this proceedings here, which shouldn't take too long, if anybody wants to make a comment about the particular period we're discussing, or Joe McDonnell or one of the lads died in 1981 hunger strike, feel free to do so. And I would just ask you, if anybody is going to be speaking, if they want to make comments, to keep them sharp and to the point, and not to be rambling like I'm going to be doing a wee bit here. So anyway, just as I said earlier, if we look at the period of the hunger strike, and we look at hunger strikes in general, and I'm not here to give a lecture by any shape or form, because looking around this room, there's people here who are more than aware of the history of hunger strikes, and as I said earlier, especially from the time of Thomas Ice and right up until 1981. But just to put things in context about how 1981 did come about, and the reason for the hunger strike did come about, was in, look at the period of 1972, when the IRA called a ceasefire. And one of the demands for that ceasefire was not only the release of prisoners and other bigger demands, constitutional issues, was the issue of political status, or what the British then later called it special category status, but we always refer to it as political status. When Billy McKee, Francis McCart, and a number of other political prisoners in Crumlin jail and in Armagh jail, there was men in Armagh jail at that time as well, when they went on hunger strike. So a delegation of IRA people went over to London, and a ceasefire was called. And as we all know, as looking around this room, a lot of people here are from Lenadoon, and remember the time well when the ceasefire broke down at the bottom of Lenadoon at the junction of Mizzen Gardens. But luckily for the lads who were on hunger strike, and they were on hunger strike for about 46 days, they eventually did get political status. So everyone who was sentenced for a political offence got political status, men and women, and unionist prisoners as well. They obviously benefited a lot of what Republicans were doing over the years. But so that was the status for political prisoners. In 1975, and it has to be borne in mind, the British Labour Party was in power at the time, when they phased out internment, this way called internment, at the end of 1975, then as a sop to the SDLP and the Unionists was to do away with political status. So on March the 1st, 1976, that's when political status was done away with. So anyone who was sentenced for a political offence was going to be referred to as criminals. And us as political prisoners, no matter what the Brits were going to call us, we were never going to be referred to as political prisoners. So on March the 1st, 1976, anyone who was convicted of an offence after that date didn't get political status, because there were a number of men, and there may have been women as well, but definitely a number of men who were in the cages on remand, in the cages, who were charged with offences before the 1st of March. But then when they were sentenced, they ended up in the H blocks. They lost their status. So when I was on remand, I was left at July 1976, and when I was in the Crumlin Road jail, it was a wee bit of an adventure for myself, in the sense that there were some of the lads there who I already knew, like Archie Livingstone, Jazz McCann, and other people from Andytown, and I wouldn't have known too many from people from down the road, and I can't even remember knowing any countrymen. But while we were walking around the yard, and we were turning around and saying about what are we going to do if and when any of us were sentenced. And the one thing we were adamant about, we weren't going to wear a prison uniform. And it was all a bit, my memory of it was that it was all a bit ad hoc. Then in September 1976, Kieran Nugent, and anybody who got to know Kieran Nugent, or as the nickname we had for him, Header Nugent, even though he's a young lad, he's only 19, he's a big man, and he was, just using this term, he's a ballsy character as well. And I'm not saying anybody else had been sentenced wouldn't have done what he done, but he ended up in the H blocks, and when the screws came in to him, said they were a prison uniform on, he said he wasn't going to wear one. So that was the start of what was known as the blanket protest. So word started coming down to us on remand in the Crum. I was in A wing, and there was lads who were in C wing. You would have seen them at court every week down in Town Hall Street. That's when you went to court for remand. They were talking about there was rumours being doing, and it ended up a lot of it was true about the beatings and how much the screws were torturing the prisoners. So we were all, well, for myself, I was very afraid of this and all this. Then we ended up, when you get the depositions, your court papers, ended up in the H1 on remand. And it was then that we had seen every Sunday at Mass, we had seen the likes of Finbar McKenna and other lads who were going to Mass, and we tried to smuggle them in over tobacco or sweets, whatever we could. Most times we did get it. And you also had some orderlies who were dead on as well. They would have given tobacco and sweets or chewing gum or whatever it was to the lads. But the thing that really worried me and a lot of us was Christmas morning, 1976, when there was a priest called Sean Cahill. He came in to say a mass, and I'm not here. Well, I'm going to not be very critical of a lot of priests. A lot of them were, some of them were real bad, not much scumbags, in my humble opinion. But your man Sean Cahill was a pretty sound priest, and he was the mass was held up for some reason or other. And then when the lads came in, this is a Christmas morning, when they came in, a lot of them had marks, black eyes, and whatever. And we were looking at them, we were going, what word came to us? The screws were standing between us and the lads. They used to come in with prison trousers on, bare feet and bare chest, and we were looking at them, and the screws come in the middle of the night, drunk, beat the crap out of them. So that was for me, we're going, this is our introduction to the blanket protest. Then when I was sentenced in January 1977, that's when I went on the blanket, and at that particular time in H2, it was very hard. Any time you're leaving your cell, you had to leave it naked. But then if you went out for your grub, or you get up for get a wash or slap out, there's no toilets in the cells with no reading material except the Bible, and used to be bored out of your tree. The bed was taken out first pop in the morning, it was out for most of the day, and you just had to walk up and down the cell. You couldn't lay on your bed or anything here. But in April of that year, we were all moved to H5, and that's when things did change a lot for us. The Bruno Shaw, Pádraic Mac Coitir, Dorian, August Space here, and Cammy, a couple of Oran and Shaw.
Well, I'm 90 miles from Dublin town. I'm in a H-block cell. To help you understand my plight, my story I tell. I'm on the blanket protest. My efforts must not fail, for I'm joined by men and women on my Coitir. It all began one morning. I was dragged to Castlereagh. Although it was 3 years ago, it now seems just like yesterday. For 3 days kicked and beaten, I then was forced to sign confessions that convicted me of acts which were not mine. I was sentenced in a deadlock court. My protest soon began. I would not wear their prison gear. I am a blanket man. I'll not accept their status. I will never be criminalized. And that's the issue in the blocks for which we'll give our lives. And over there in London town, oh how they'd laugh and sneer if they could only make us over their loathsome prison gear. Oh, prisoners of war is what we are, and that's we will remain. Well, the blanket protest will not end till our status we regain. I've been beaten round the romper because I won't say so. I've been frog marched down the land and been dragged back by the hood. I suffered degradation, humility, pain. Though the spirit does not falter, British torture is in vain. I've been held in the scalding water while my back scrubs was torn. I've been scratched and cut from head to foot, then been thrown out on the floor. I suffered mirror searches, been thrown by drunken birds. And I heard my comrades cry and scream as they uttered useless prayers. Now with the news that's coming in, our protest cannot fail. For now we're joined by 30 guards in Armagh's women's jail. So pay attention, Irishmen and Irish women too. Oh, and tell the Free State rulers that their silence will not do. Oh, although it's only 90 miles, it feels so far away. There's more attention to our plight out in the USA. Oh, but now you've heard my story of this filthy living hell. Just remember 90 miles away, I'm still in a cage block cell.
I just want to make a point or two about, and the song it says we refer to as the Bears, and that was a code. It ended up, it was a thing, a burr in the air, and that's a term we gave for screws. And as the song was saying, the torture that, and some people when they talk about hates blacks along cash, and people would ask me and all, was it torture? When you're living through it, and the screws were coming down, and they were beating men, and you heard men crying and screaming, you obviously knew it was torture, but it wasn't until it actually happened to a person himself that you really got to know how bad it was. And I remember talking to, I'm just saying because he's sitting here, Pat Livingstone, about the forced washes. Now I was lucky, very lucky in the sense that at that time, because I couldn't grow a beard, and a lot of us, we were all very young, and we just had a bit of bum fluff and all. But Pat Libby was one of the first in H5 to get the forced wash. And I remember when this doctor would have come around and checked with the screws with the governor, and you would have heard the whole wing was really silent. Nobody knew who was going to be pulled in next, and they were dragged out of their cells, dragged in naked, thrown in the other scalding water or freezing water, and deck scrubbers were used, stood up and around their private parts, and they got not only that they got a real bad beating. Then when they're getting their beard shaved, their head shaved, the screws or who was doing it, they didn't care about what way the cuts and and some of the lads ended up with scars for, during that particular time. And just again, there's lads here who's I've been on the wing with, who were in the haste blocks at the time. And although it was very bad at times, our morale would have risen a lot during a particular bad time when we went on the No Voice protest in April 1978. And you can imagine if you go a day without a shower or a bath. In those days, I didn't know anybody would have had a shower in their house. But if you're not washing or shaving for months on end, how dirty you'd be. But it's amazing too how very few of us end up with bad, like fleas or diseases or as such. But it didn't make things any easier. And just getting back a bit, what I meant to say was in regards to some of the lads who were on hunger strike. When I first met, I knew Joe McDonnell before he went into jail. I knew Kieran Doherty, didn't know him particularly well. And and Bobby Sands, when they were captured, and Bobby Sands and Joe McDonnell and their comrades were captured in September 1977, some of them ended up in A-wing in the Crum, and there was a bit of an age gap between myself and them, and you would have looked up to them, especially men who'd been in jail before. So they were then sentenced. They were on remand for a year, and they were sentenced to 14 years in September 1977. And then every week at Mass, you would have seen the lads at Mass. Just the canteen, that's where we had our Mass. It was big buzz of everybody talking away and what have you. And the other fellow who was in hunger strike, and the wing was only a couple of sets off from me, was Raymond McCreesh. So just shortly before I'm moving on fairly quickly here because it was a far bit to get through. Just before I was released in July 1979, Brent Hughes, the Dhearg, he sent word round, the camp staff sent word round to us as prisoners, asking us how we could escalate the protest. And I was in the cell with a fellow, Paul McClinchy, he was doing 14 years. There was men in our wing who were doing life 15 years. Other lads who were in other wings were doing life 25 years, for instance, a lot of heavy sentences. And I was one of the lucky ones. I was only doing 3 years. So when my 3 years was coming up, just shortly before this in July, the camp staff sent round word asking us how we could escalate the protest. And it was very, very difficult for me to go up the door. At that time, believe it or not, I was very shy and quiet then. But at that time, it was hard. It was very difficult for me to say that the next step was a hunger strike, but it was clear to everyone. We had been on the No Voice protest, as I said earlier, from April 1978. We had 3 blocks, Haste 3, 4 and 5. There was women in protest in Armagh, and there didn't seem to become any end yet. Now we were getting a lot of stories in from outside our families, through letters, or some of the lads who were getting visits were told about thousands of people were out in the streets, and we were talking about this here, and we also knew, we guessed some of it was propaganda. But as I say, shortly before I did get released, it was clear there was going to be a hunger strike. And a hunger strike was the next step. So when I got released and run about Lenadoon and wherever else I was running about, a lot of people were asking me, because there was so few of us had been on the blanket protest who had been released, and there was a big, especially the families of the lads who were in the blocks. I got to know a lot of their families, and they were always asking about, was it true about the beatings, is it true about this, that and the other thing, and I used not play it down by any shape or form, but I used to say it wasn't just as bad as what it was. And when I remember when I got out, people were saying to me, my hair was down to here, it was very thin, and I was white as a ghost, and people were always, Pat, you're looking well when you get out and all this sort of thing. I was looking in the mirror and all of them looked the state of me, and the lads who had just left. So within a bit of, once you started eating chocolate and going for a few pints, started putting on a bit of weight, then people turned around and said to me that they were looking to say to me how bad I looked, and they were saying that going up to see their loved ones, it was even worse for them, because I was able to talk to them a bit, and I didn't want to know about it, but they were out to visit their sons or husbands or brothers or whatever the case may be. They realised then how hard it was. So anyway, a hunger strike did take place. It started in October 1980. 7 men went on it, and it lasted 53 days. And we all know that the outcome of this year. Now, Brenton Hughes was the OC of the prisoners. He was also on a hunger strike. There was 3 women in Armagh who went on for the last 19 days. And the hunger strike, and again, being outside here, I thought, and we all thought, there was a resolution to the protest, because we were all over the news, everybody was talking about it on the road, and then within a very short time, within maybe no more than 2 or 3 days, you realised the Brits had reneged, and then it was clear. Although I was outside, I wasn't privy to what was going on in the haste blocks. I was getting some comms out from some of the lads at different times, and they were filling me in on what was happening. There was nothing secretive what they were writing out to me, and I definitely wasn't loose talking to them either. But not that I done anything outside, but anyway, when I was out, but it was clear there was going to be another hunger strike. And on the 1st of March 1981, Bobby Sands went on hunger strike.
Sugar o warohan Nurger nakahanek mehu Nagran mar hasen na kemi Skashel gogonin shed hard Check shed to rescue and everyone selta Ach near Jig shed to waru again in haze blood The Google door he can lash Oh he'll not near it the spirit reached He shed a creek and a slot of heart A sick friend watched it struck in the slurry Of his corner on the Lasair Dhearg A tamil creep a strong as pen last year before The shed and short fat Kegar me to a wide on him Tomic's niece ledger and dish Hash print to doing And though we'll Lasair show and shama Why don't the maid bail off for us the fun Start a correlation brushu cree Is kitchen knock near in a belly first That she fact reached as a reached dog My hair glad shows you it more marin to ye Or he shin yard to lance that right Well lassie the spirit and way Agus chalky are like unwell A tamil creep press jogus pen last year before The shed and short fat Kegar me to a wide on him Tomic's niece ledger and dish Hash been to doing And though we'll Lasair show and shama
I meant to read out the 5 demands of the protesting prisoners. And when at the time when we were aware of these demands, we ourselves knew that there was no, why could it not be granted? But we knew, even for us as relatively young lads in jail, not all of us of course, but we knew that it was far more than just political status and the right to wear our own clothes. But these are the 5 demands. The right not to wear a prison uniform, the right not to do prison work, the right of free association with other prisoners and to organise educational and recreational pursuits, the right to one visit, one letter and parcel a week, and full restoration of remission lost through the protest. So those demands, and for any of you who were, obviously the lads, we know people in here were in jail at the time, for any of you who were out in the streets, going to protests, and looking around the room, some of you probably weren't even born at the time, but the demands, we all knew that demands were written all over the walls. At protests we heard these demands being read out regularly, and it was clear to us what these demands were, and the Brits were adamant that it wasn't going to be the case. When Bobby Sands went on hunger strike, he was Frank McGuire died, he was a British MP for Manassout Tyrone. He died of natural causes, and there was a debate going on within Republican movement about whether Bobby should be put up as a candidate. Some people thought it was too risky for him to stand, given that it was a unionist constituency. Sorry, a unionist was elected as an MP for that constituency. It was overwhelmingly Republican and nationalist, because in the 1950s there was a political prisoner a prisoner from the Crumroe jail had been elected. So there was a lot of nationalist and Republican sympathy out there for the prisoners in that constituency. So it was decided to put Bobby forward as a candidate, and he was elected on the 9th of April. And this was, like Bobby obviously had been on hunger strike, and we were, a lot of people, and I've spoken to lads who were in jail at the time, because when I ended up back in jail again, I'm not going to mention you lads are sitting about here, it was a big discussion a lot of times about the jail themselves think that this was going to be a turning point for the protest and the hunger strike. And it wasn't naivety on anybody's part, but unfortunately it wasn't the case. And Bobby Sands died on the 5th of May, 1981. And just on a point that, I was staying in a house not too far from here, and it was a time in which we all knew how serious the last few days of Bobby Sands' life were, and we were going to meetings on a regular basis. We were all told that in the event of Bobby dying, where we had to go to. And I remember, I was young and fit then, running up Lenadoon Avenue, and Kate Finucane, she stopped me and she said to me, Pádraic, come on, speak to me. And I said, I can't, Kate, I have to go, because she knew Bobby Sands, because Bobby had, her son Shimmy Finucane had been captured and charged with Bobby. So I ran on up to the house anyway, and the lads were sitting there, and the news wasn't like it is now, the constant news. And when I walked in, there was nobody crying or anything. It was so angry. And I was asked, how would I feel if I was in jail? And I was saying, bad enough if it was for the likes of us out in the streets, at least we were able to go out and do something about it. Even if it was just go to the house and talk to people. I'd imagine being stuck in a cell, and a lot of lads who knew Bobby personally, even if they were in another block and hadn't met Bobby, how much that would have affected them. And one of the things are that, as we all do know, that Bobby was a prolific writer. He had been writing poetry, had been writing prose, and Andrew and Shaw was going to read a poem, very famous one.
There's an inner thing in every man. You know this thing, my friend. It has witnessed the blows of a million years, and will do so to the end. It was born when time did not exist, and it grew up out of life. It cut down evil strangling vines like a slicing, searing knife. It lit fires when fires were not, and burnt the mind of man. tempering leaden hearts to steel from the time that time began. It wept by the waters of Babylon, when all men were lost. It screeched in writhing agony, and it hung bleeding from the cross. It died in Rome by lion and sword, and a defiant cool array, when the deathly word was Spartacus, along the Appian way. It marched with what the tailors poor, and frightened lord and king, and it was emblazoned in their deathly stare, as e'er a living thing. It smiled in holy innocence, before requistadors of old, so meek and tame and unaware of the deathly power of gold. It burst through pitiful Paris streets, and stormed the old Bastille, and marched upon the serpent's head, and cursed it neath its heel. It died in blood in buffalo plains, and starved by moons of rain. Its heart was buried in wounded knee, but it will come to rise again. It screamed aloud by Kerry lakes, and was knelt upon the ground, and it died in great defiance, as they coldly shut it down. It lies in the hearts of heroes dead, it screams in tyrants' eyes. It's reached the peak of mountains high, and comes searing across the skies. It lights the dark of this prison cell, it thunders forth its might. It is the indomitable thought, my friend, the thought that says I'm right. Volunteer Bobby Sands.
Francis Hughes, he was the second Republican IRA volunteer to down Hungerstrike. He started on the 6th of March, 16th of March, sorry. Raymond McCreesh, as I said earlier, I was in cell with Raymond McCreesh. It was a fairly quiet fella, and obviously I didn't get to know him in the latter stage of his life because I wasn't there. And Patsy O'Hara, they went on a hunger strike on the same day on the 22nd of March. Francis Hughes, he died on the 12th of May. And just a little point I'd like to make on that particular thing. We were, as I say, when we were hearing about Bobby Sands, then we'd heard all this word was coming in from the jail, how serious he was getting. Then with Francis Hughes, and I was in the car with Dr. Lynch. We were down Andytown, and just before we left this house and went down, and somebody had told us that Francis Hughes had died. So we were, and because of the news reports were coming in all the time that he was a very critical. When we were down this place in Andersontown, somebody came over to me, and I was driving the car, and Brooks was in the shop, and he says that Julie Livingstone was shot. And I says, what do you mean she's shot? And he says she was shot with a plastic bullet. Now a lot of people were shot with plastic bullets. A lot of people were shot and injured. And we were going, because we'd only been down from Lenadoon. We just drove down from Lenadoon, and there was no rioting. And so I asked this man, how is she? He says he didn't know, just heard Julie had been shot. So when Duxer got in the car and I says, Julie Livingstone, because we were in the Livingstone house a lot, and so we just thought she maybe got hit in the arm or the leg or something, but didn't realise the seriousness of it. So unfortunately for Julie, she died the next day, the day after Francis Hughes died. So that was a big thing for us as well. Not only was the lads down on hunger strike, Joe McDonnell was on hunger strike, Julie Livingstone from a very strong Republican family, and Pat and Archie were on the blanket protest. And I remember the morning my dad asked me to go and get a few cards and bring them up to the house early the next day. But I wasn't staying in the house, my own house, and I went up, and Archie and Bernie Livingstone were sitting there, and they asked me, did they think that Pat and Martin, Archie, would get parole for the funeral? And I didn't think any of the two of them. I says, no, I don't think so. I couldn't see it. But I said to them I didn't know. So the day of Julie's funeral, I'm not just talking here now, but I was driving the car, and anybody knows from Bumbag, the steps down between Bumbag and the Albert Plunkett School, there was two lads in the car with me, and I was just driving up the street, up Glenveigh, and I opened the mirror, and I says, one of the lads knew him, the other fella didn't know him, and I says, where's Archie? I not near Christ the car, but I didn't do a wheelie or nothing like this here. But I turned around very quickly and pulled up the Archie, and Archie said, "Where are you going?" And we were sitting with gloves on us and all this, and he went to put his hand in the car, and he says, "Archie, don't your thing." He says, "Lads, let me go with you, let me go with you." And we just knew he wasn't spoofing, he wanted to go up with us. And we says, "Look, you just can't, you have to go around the house." So and there was a memory there that when I went down later on before seeing Archie, I was talking to Earl Archie Livingstone himself, and he said to me, I said, "Look, Archie, we might be able to go to the funeral." And he thought we were going to go to Francis Hughes' funeral. I says, "No, we weren't. If we were going to go to any funeral, it was going to be Julie's." And unfortunately, Pat didn't get paroled, and Archie got paroled for a number of hours, and well, and anybody knows Archie, whatever, it was a real sad occasion. But when Francis Hughes, when he died, and this song is Paddy's going to sing it.
As I walked through the Glensham Pass, I heard a younger man, a boy from Lenadoon, she cried, "It's 2 years dead and gone." Oh, my heart is torn apart with this brave man's news. We'll never see the likes again of my young Francis Hughes. For many years his exploits were a thorn in old England's side. The hills and glens became his home, that's where he used to hide. And once when they surrounded him, he quietly slipped away, and like a fox he went to ground and kept the dogs at bay. Moving round the countryside, he often made the news. They could never lay their hands on my brave Francis Hughes, until finally they wounded him and captured him at last. And from the countryside that he loved, they took him to Belfast. And from Musgrave Park, the crumbling road, and into a hedge black cell, he went straight on the blanket, then on hunger strike as well. His will to win they could never break, no matter what they tried. He fought them every day that he lived, and he fought them as he died. As I walked through the Glensham Pass, I heard a younger man, the boy from Lenadoon, she cried, "It's 2 years dead and gone." And oh, my heart is torn apart for this brave man to lose. We'll never see the likes again of my young Francis Hughes.
just rushing through these, some of the other lads who died. There's a lot has been written and said about them, and as I said from the outset, what I'm trying to make this is a fitting tribute to the 10 lads who died. Raymond McCreast and Patsy O'Hara, they died on the 22nd of 21st of May. So at this stage, Joe McDonnell, he had already gone on hunger strike. He went on hunger strike on the 9th of May, and he took his first visit, since he was, as I said earlier, when he was sentenced in September 1977, and from then until the 12th of May 1981, that was his first visit. And it was, no doubt, it was a very difficult time for Joe's family, Greta, Bernadette and Joseph and other members of his family, knowing that the first visit he was having with them was to tell him that he was going on hunger strike. And when you think that when Bobby had already died, Joe had made it clear, sorry, he was under no illusion what he was facing. And maybe when I finish here tonight, with some of the lads here, we'll maybe talk a bit more personal about it if they can talk about it. They were a lot closer to Joe McDonnell than I would have claimed it have been. So there was also an election was held, a Free State election was held obviously in the Free State, and there was a lot of, for us up in here in Belfast, running about, you were caught up in events here, you were trying to do things as much as you could do, and elections, you were just hoping, you were just read the newspapers, and you saw the news every night, and you're talking to people who'd be up and down, canvassing on behalf of the lads, the men and women who were standing in elections. And Joe was almost 300 votes, he was short of being elected. But Kieran Doherty, we'll talk about Kieran later on, and Pádraic Mac, they were elected the Free State in the Free State elections. So then, as time was wearing on, and I was going in and out of Greta's house, just talking to Greta, talking about Joe, and going back to the lads sitting in the thing, some of the lads who didn't know Joe, talking about how it was going on, and again, hopefully someday this will be written about the times that were in it. But somebody had told me that there was a Brit was shot at the bottom of Lenadoon Avenue, and he was almost killed. And somebody said to me, "Will you go around to Greta and say that the lads were out there doing that for Joe?" So the Brit survived anyway. He was critically injured, and this is a time when Bobby or Joe himself was in a critical position while on hunger strike. So unfortunately, and I'll never forget this. This was the day in which I was staying in another billet, but this particular billet I was in on my own, and I told this comrade of mine, gave him the address and said, "This is where I'll be, and if anything happens," and there was times when we had to get up early in the morning and wherever that. So this fella, speaking hypothetically, it was 12 Stewartstown Avenue. He thought I was staying at, say, 12 Naroon Park or something like this here. So they were around knocking doors at number 12, whatever this may be. So Joe died at 5:10 in the morning. I didn't know until about 7 o'clock in the morning, simply because when it was in the summer, and I heard the bin lids and all going. So when I got up and I went down to wherever we had to go to. And for anybody who, say, looking around the room here, people who were at Joe's funeral, and for me, I just saw Bobby Sands' funeral because of where we couldn't, and some of us couldn't go to it, but where we were sitting, it was a massive funeral, and Joe's funeral, we went down, myself and Dummy Finucane, we went down we were told not to go down anywhere near where the farm party was going to be. So we went down anyway in a car, and Dermot claims he's a better driver than me, but he wasn't. So I drove down to wherever, and standing outside the shops, where Connie House is now, facing the shops, and somebody said, "This is where the lads are going to come out." We didn't know exactly where they were going to come out. So somebody came over to us and said, what are you doing? You should be up there getting stuff ready for whatever. Oh no, I want to see this here. So we saw the firing party, and the next thing was all the shooting was happening. Plastic bullets being fired. Didn't know what was happening, and word was coming down to us. This was all happening in about 5 or 10 minutes. People are on the boat, and that's what everybody referred to. There's a lads on the boat or whatever the case may be, and saying there's people being shot dead up in St. Agnes' Drive. We went, who are they? And says like Paddy Allen, Pete Rooney, and Johnny Crawford, whoever it was. We said they're dead. He says yes. So we were told, let's back up the road, and it doesn't matter where we were going, get stuff out and all that sort of thing. And then by the time we were down, choppers were up, Brits and peelers were everywhere. And that for me was, again, it brought back memories of a cousin of mine, Pádraic Mac Coitir, who was killed in 1871. His funeral was in St. Agnes' Church as well. The Brits fired over bullets through the windows and all this, but obviously Joe McDonnell's funeral was far worse than that. So, and then later on that day, unfortunately, we heard about young John Dempsey. I didn't know the fella. Word came down, John Dempsey was killed at the corner, outside the Falls Depot, and the Brits shot him dead. So all this tension was going on, people were being shot, classic bullets. Then the next day, Nora McCabe, and I remember that we went down to the wake house, Nora McCabe's house, because Farry Joe McGuire, who had been on the blanket protest, I was his sister-in-law. So all these events were happening fairly quickly, and you just were caught up in it all. And again, when I was talking to lads who were in jail at the time, it was a nightmare for them who were on the blanket, the lads who knew, the lads who were dying on a regular basis. Then on the 13th of July, Martin Herson died. And Martin Herson died when it was a case or when nobody was expecting, because it was after 46 days. And again, myself and Dermy were down somewhere near the bottom of Andy, or wherever it was, when we heard all the detonations all going. And I remember running up past Greta's house, and Greta was sitting outside the house, and she was banging down it. And she was crying, and she asked us to stay with her, and we says, Greta, I can't. And so we had to go. So, okay.
This is an exact copy of Martin Herson's last letter to his cage mates. To Kevin O'Brien, Pádraic Mac Coitir, Terry Crossan, Pat Thompson, and all the rest of the Tyrone lads, and I hope you're keeping well. As for myself, getting a hunger strike, no problem at all. Just horsing her on, that's the only way. So there's been a lot of sad news in the blocks from, you've heard from me last, with the great loss of Bobby, Frank, Patsy, and Raymond. Both Frank and Raymond were in the wing. Many's the good yarn we had out the door to all hours of the morning. They were great crack altogether. Both of them were great men for the ghost stories. There are some yarns told that would make the hair stand on the back of your head, so I had to tell a few myself to keep the show going. It used to give the lads of the wing a good laugh. Before Francie and Raymond went on strike, just like the other lads, they gave a speech out the door. All Raymond's was in Irish, which was very good, but very sad. It would have broke your heart listening to it. During his speech, he said he came from a very proud family, and the people of South Armagh were very proud people. Frank said in his speech, I have no gun now, but I am still fighting the Brits on hunger strike. That's just a couple of bits out of them. Bob made a great speech over in H3. I just don't know what he said, but we could hear the lads beating the doors after he finished. Patsy was in the other wing in this block, just didn't know him as well as the other three. Terrible sound lad all the same. These blocks were terrible quiet during the terrible time, although things are starting to pick up again. So yous all there must have been wrecked just here like me. These Brits are a dirty outfit. They can tell yous one thing for sure, the Brits will give in before we will. They have tried every damn thing to break the blanket protest, and they have failed. They will never beat us. Them tramps will rue the day, letting men die in here in the hell blocks. I thought they would have moved me to the hospital today, but it should be pretty soon. In around 21 days, they get you out of the blocks. So before I get shifted, I decided to drop my old friends a short note and tell you all the crap. I'm entitled to one visit a week, now seeing I'm on hunger strike, so that gives me a chance to have a yarn with the family and keeps them a bit more at ease anyway. So it means a terrible lot on the hunger strike when the family is behind you 100%. The people up around that part of the country were working flat out during the elections in the Free State. They put some hard work into it and tried to make Carson Boy a TD. We're all well pleased with the result. It done the job which it set out to do, and hockey isn't in such a good way going now. That man is useless. The Brits have him well under the thumb. The support is very good outside for us. Great credit must be given to those people for their great work on our behalf. We got the news a while back that yous up in the cages were putting a lot of publicity about but everything helps. When anyone goes on hunger strike, the screws put you in a cell on your own, and just as usual, the food stays in the cell all day. My morale is very high, which means a terrible lot. The Brits can never break us. I had the odd talk out the door with the lads. These past few days have been very, very cold. There is a wind coming through the cell which would clean corn. So lads, that escape from the crumb was a great job. Another cop got the works in Tyrone. That's the style of it. It's good to see them Brits, UDR and cops falling like flies. So lads, I must go here for a drop of the hard stuff with some salt in it, ha ha. Take good care and all my luck. Tell the rest of the lads up there I was asking. Go Jerry and Tad live o marching.
Just after Martin had died, and again been out here, we just knew what's going to be happening here. Many lads are going to die because we were hearing a lot of other people's names who were men who were on hunger strike, and there was talk of other lads who were going to go on hunger strike. And again, like some people like myself who'd been in the blanket and knowing some of the lads, knowing a lot of lads in the blanket, of course, but knowing some of the hunger strikers, people were asking, am I a part of die here? We just didn't know what happened, because we just had no idea. So shortly after Martin Herson died, I was back in Crumlin Road Jail, and when I went in the Crum, it changed for the likes of myself. I was a lot more confident. I wasn't as shy and quiet as I had been before, and the lads who were there were telling me, some of the lads who'd been on the man the whole time when from Bobby had gone on hunger strike right up to Martin Herson had died, he says the morale was very, very low. And I noticed it as soon as I walked in I went in the sea wing, and some of the lads there who had been on the blanket protest and been on the man with me. And it was surreal, and it was completely different from being outside when the lads who were dying. Because, as I said earlier, at least when you're outside, there's things you could have done. As I say, even if just go around, knock somebody's door, or do whatever you could and should have been doing. But being in jail, it was a lot more difficult. So, Kevin Lynch, he died on the 1st of August, here in Doherty, a local Andy-town man. On the 2nd of August, Tom McElwee on the 8th, and Mickey Devine on the 20th of August. And even at that stage, when obviously 10 men died, we didn't know how many more were going to die, because at that stage, because I was back in jail again, I'd have been writing more columns up and down through the blacks. It was easier to get columns down there than it had been months before, and names were coming up to us in the Crum, hearing people on visits with telling us that such and such a fella's name they're going to be in a hunger strike. We just didn't know what was going to be, and people were asking us that if and when any of us were going to be sentenced, what were we going to do, and we just that didn't know. So the hunger strike ended on the 3rd of October 1981, and when we look back in those days, when people ask me, and I'm sure we've all been asked the same question when we're sitting around somebody's house or sitting over a pint or over a cup of tea or coffee, whatever the case may be, we turn around and talk about pivotal moments in Irish history. And it's no exaggeration. And this isn't putting things on anybody on a pedestal. In my humble opinion, it's no exaggeration to say it was a pivotal moment. It's the 1788 rebellion, 1816 rising, and 1881. Long after we're all gone and generations of people looking back on those terrible dark days, those names will never be forgotten. And it's important, not just for us who knew some or all of the lads, and some family members here are very close comrades and friends of the men who died. It's important for us to remember them, and we shall never forget them. Just like to finish off here, a few more things, and Callum McGillivine is going to come up here, and they've heard a poem of that. Well, Callum's going to read. Do you want to stay there, or do you want to come on up here at all?
I wrote this poem in 2006, on the 25th anniversary. Oh, sorry. Can you? The title of the poem is A Letter to the 22. A letter to the 22. You have not gone away. You are in our hearts and on the lips of your people. The old speak of you with knowing tongue, the middle-aged as those who walk beside you. The young men and women with a passion not unlike your own. Your names can be heard on the wind, taken from the mouths of men, who tend their flocks on Slieve Gullion, Croagh Patrick, Glen Shane. They echo in small graveyards in Cork, Kerry, Galway, Mayo, Tyrone, Antrim, Derry, and Armagh. They are heard among your people at the Mass gate on Sunday, in the crowd at the hurling game, around the hearth when the battle is cracked and song is sung. Your image can be seen on the faces of happy, smiling children, for whose freedom you gave your all. You are in our prayers. You have not gone away. You never will. It's my John.
Hunger strike, rule of honour. Volunteer Bobby Sands, Belfast, 66 days, 5th of May 1981. Volunteer Frank Hughes, Balahi, Derry, 59 days, 12th of May 1981. Volunteer Raymond McCreesh, South Armagh, 61 days, 21st of May 1981. Volunteer Patsy O'Hara, Derry, 61 days, 21st of May 1981. Volunteer Joe McDonnell, Belfast, 61 days, 8th of July 1981. Volunteer Martin Herson, Tyrone, 46 days, 13th of July 1981. Volunteer Kevin Lynch, Dungiven, Derry, 71 days, 1st of August 1981. Volunteer Kieran Doherty, Belfast, 73 days, 2nd of August 1981. Volunteer Tom McElwee, Balahi, Derry, 62 days, 8th of August 1981. And volunteer Mickey Devine, Derry, 60 days, 20th of August 1981.
We're just going to finish off with a very famous song, and I would ask you at the hall, some people give a wee cheer or some people clap during it. I would ask you not to do it, because Pádraic has asked me, and I agree with it 100%. I think it shouldn't be done. No clapping during the song at the hall.
Oh, my name is Joe McDonnell, and from Belfast town I came, a city I will never see again. For it's in the town of Belfast and I spent many happy days. I love that town in oh so many ways. For it's there I spent my childhood, and I found for me a wife that I then set out to make for her life. Oh, but all my young ambitions met with bitterness and with hate. I soon found myself behind their prison gates. And you dared to call me a terrorist while you look down your gun. Oh, when I think of all the deeds that you have done, you have plundered many nations, divided many lands, and you have terrorized our people. You rule with an iron hand, and you brought this reign of terror to my land. Through those many months of internment upon the Maidstone and on Long Kish, I thought about my land throughout those days, and why my country was divided, and why I was now in jail, imprisoned without crime and without trial. And although I love my country, I am not a bitter man. I've seen cruelty and injustice at first hand. And then one fateful morning I shook bold freedom's hand. For right or wrong I tried to free my land. And you dared to call me a terrorist while you look down your gun. When I think of all the deeds that you have done, you have plundered many nations, divided many lands, and you have terrorized my people. You rule with an iron hand, and you brought this reign of terror to my land. And then one cold October's morning, I was trapped in a lion's den. I found myself imprisoned once again. I was committed to the H blocks for 14 years or more, and on the blanket the conditions they were poor. And then a hunger strike we did commence for the dignity of man, and yet it seems to me that no one gave a damn. And now I am but a sad man, for I watched my comrades die, and there's no one really cares or wonders why. And you dare to call me the terrorist while you look down your gun. And when I think of all the deeds that you have done, for you have plundered many nations, you've divided many lands, and you have terrorized my peoples. You rule with an iron hand, and you brought this reign of terror to my land. And may God shine on you, Bobby Sands, for the courage you have shown. may your glory and your name be waiting on. And young Francis Hughes and Ray McCreesh, you both died unselfishly. And young Patsy O'Hara, and the next in line it's me. And to those who lie behind me, may your courage be the same. And I pray to God our lives are not in vain. Sad, but there was the year of 1981, when they think that we have lost, but it's yet to be won. Hara Hughes, McCreation, Sands, Doherty and Lynch, McDonnell, Harrison, McElwee, Devine.
Just before we go, does anybody want to make any comment? Anything further, any questions anybody's got? If not, we'll just, Jeremy, I'll continue chatting short.